Yes!
Hey everyone, and welcome to a brand new episode of The Completionist. With Halloween being here, I thought I'd invite my friends over at Scary Game Squad to be on the show to talk about a scary game. What is Scary Game Squad? Well, Scary Game Squad is...
Shh, we'll tell them.
You're welcome.
Amen.
Scary Game Squad stars the four of us getting incredibly drunk and tackling scary games. Today in the Scary Game Squad Theater, we'll be tackling the thrilling tale of Until Dawn.
Let's
do it.
Amen.
Why do you sound like a Southern Baptist preacher?
Amen.
Hallelujah!
Amen.
Amen!
Give me the
Amen.
Oh no.
That was real.
Back when Until Dawn was first announced at Gamescom 2012, it was envisioned as a first-person title that utilized the PlayStation 3's Move controller. And considering that it was being developed by Supermassive Games, the studio behind other PS Move titles such as Start the Party and Walking with Dinosaurs, this upcoming title sounded like it was something right up their alley.
But the game was MIA for quite a while, 2 years to be exact, and wasn't seen again until Gamescom 2014. But by this time, Until Dawn was looking a lot different. It was now a PlayStation 4 exclusive that was in third person and utilized the DualShock 4's motion sensor. The game had gone through some changes, but one thing was clear. This game was meant to scare the shit out of its players.
The last time we visited this game, we weren't exactly sober. But now that we're clear-headed, and since Halloween's basically upon us, it seemed like an appropriate time to re-examine the best horror movie simulator of 2015.
So, grab your Scooby snacks and let's get spooky, bitches!
Leave it to Daphne to pick the wrong door.
On a dark and stormy night way back in 2014, a bunch of extremely pretty teenagers get together for their annual winter getaway at the Blackwood Pines Lodge atop the snowy peaks of Blackwood Mountain. And boy, is this crew filled to the brim with classic horror film archetypes.
You've got your Letterman-wearing jock Matt, your promiscuous blonde Jess, your inexplicably swole geeky kid Chris, the shy girl whom everyone treats like she's not attractive, but is thoroughly attractive, Ashley, the obligatory bitchy chick Emily, Hayden Panettiere, your secretly hot nerdy chick Hannah, and overly protective twin sister of the nerdy chick Beth, their rock star asshole brother Josh, and the ridiculously hot guy whom the nerdy chick has a crush on, Mike. Also, he's that one guy from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Some of the members of the gang decide to play a prank on nerdy little Hannah by tricking her into thinking that hunky Mike wants to meet her for a private rendezvous. What poor Hannah doesn't know is that everyone's hiding in the room, watching and giggling like little schoolgirls, which, incidentally, many of them are. They're their own tropes.
Once Hannah realizes that she's the butt of the joke, she runs outside into the dark, snowy night. Her twin sister Beth runs after her deep into the creepy-ass woods. But once Beth finally catches up to Hannah, who's crying in the snow, they both notice that someone or something is watching them from the shadows. They panic, break away, and soon come to a dead end. Of course, they back up too far, fall over the cliff, and begin dangling for their lives. To make matters worse, something that looks like the pyro from Team Fortress 2 starts grabbing at them. Tragically, both sisters end up falling and crashing to their deaths on the icy rocks below. Ouch.
1 year later, the remaining members of the Burger King Kids Club are all returning to Blackwood Pines. Turns out that Hannah and Beth's brother Josh wants everyone to get back together in memory of his missing sisters and party like Prawn Stars, which I'm guessing includes plenty of fresh powder and very well may end up with even more missing girls. The kids all eventually congregate at the lodge, but they don't stay grouped up for long. For various reasons, they all start splitting up again. 2 go off to have sex in a cabin, another 2 go off looking for a Ouija board, and another 2 go looking for one of the girls' purse. But it's not long after they separate that the weird stuff starts going down. Can they all survive until dawn? No, probably not. I wouldn't bet on it. I'm probably gonna kill one of them. I'm not even gonna try. One of them's gonna die, and it's not gonna be my fault. But it will be my fault, because gameplay.
Until Dawn's presentation is, without a doubt, the most impressive thing about it. From top to bottom, this game does the most convincing impression of a horror film I've ever seen in a video game. The voice acting, for example, sounds like it came straight out of a slasher flick, which is to say that it's pretty flat for a movie, but pretty extraordinary for a video game. Furthermore, Until Dawn has some of the best facial animation I've ever seen in a game. Holy cow, it's like Peter Stormare himself is looking right at you.
You will always find a way to work through it.
Speaking of the game's visuals, Until Dawn's environments are also noteworthy. The incredible lighting and shading make the backgrounds a sight to behold. The hyperrealism that's often achieved only helps to keep the player immersed in the terror. And speaking of immersion, the game's transitions from gameplay to cutscenes is super seamless. It's clear that the developers went to great lengths to ensure that the player feels like they're in a genuine horror movie.
Until Dawn's audio is crisp as shit. The music is just as atmospheric as you'd expect it to be, and the calculated moments of silence are even better. But the hero of this game's sound design is the Foley. The sound effects put in just as much, if not more work, to keep the player on the edge and zoned in while playing the game. Hearing your character's footsteps crunch through the snow, or hearing mysterious shrieks coming from the dark go a long way in contributing to the overall terror of the experience.
While we're on the subject of scary stuff, we should mention that Until Dawn can get pretty spooky at times. Now, we're not talking PT levels of horror here, but this game can get about as scary as your average slasher film, complete with jump scares aplenty. Dear God, there's a lot of jump scares in this game, but don't worry, other horror genres are represented here too. This game's got a lot of supernatural horror, some isolation and paranoia, and even some good old-fashioned torture porn.
Finish him. Fatality.
With that being said, the game may be a bit too good at emulating the slasher formula at times. Until Dawn has its fair share of fake-out scares during the beginning of the game, and it takes a little while before anything really interesting happens to the characters, but once the game gets rolling, it stays that way.
Excellent.
Until Dawn's gameplay is fairly simplistic. Most of the time, you're going to be exploring areas, completing quick-time events, and making binary choices. And you'll be making a lot of these choices over the course of the game. Until Dawn utilizes a mechanic known as the butterfly effect to use the choices that you make while you play to alter the narrative accordingly. It's like one of those old choose-your-own-adventure books.
Unlike those books, though, Until Dawn will not allow you to flip back to a previous page to undo a regretful decision. Your choices are permanent, baby. No takebacks. In a game where even the smallest, seemingly innocuous choices may have extreme ramifications later on, it's a good idea to think carefully before committing to a choice. Deciding to keep a flare gun to yourself rather than hand it over to a friend may mean the difference between life and death for both characters.
Now, when it comes to exploration, Until Dawn will sometimes give you control of a character so you can explore a small space or series of linear pathways. These sections are some of the best parts of the game since they give you the most freedom to do stuff on your own. That being said, these can also be some of the scariest parts of the game. You see, cutscenes and QuickTime events can only be so scary. You're barely in control during them, and if your character gets in trouble during one, then it wasn't really your fault. You weren't even in control. But when you're completely responsible for where a character goes and what they do, there's a lot more pressure on you, which makes things a lot more tense.
Exploring also gives you opportunities to eavesdrop on others' conversations and discover clues throughout Blackwood Mountain. Participating in conversations with characters and finding clues gives you insight into the mysteries behind what's exactly going on there. Expanding the narrative this way is much appreciated because it's done in a way only video games can.
While you play, you'll also have to be on the lookout for totems. These color-coded pieces of Native American history will give you clues to help you successfully keep the kids alive through the night. Red totems warn of a potentially damaging situation in the future, brown ones foreshadow the death of one of your compatriots, yellow ones give advice for avoiding bad scenarios, white ones depict the aftermath of making sound decisions, and black totems are like a clip of faces of death. These totems add some much-needed tension and scare factor to the early parts of the game, and they keep the anxiety high during the late game too. After all, when there's not much future left in the game, things can get really uneasy when you know that the grisly death you just witnessed is probably right around the corner.
One of the best mechanics in Until Dawn is the don't move mechanic. Occasionally, the game will instruct the player to remain perfectly still, and it uses the dual shock force motion sensors to tell if you're sufficiently still. If you move when you're not supposed to, you can bet that something awful is bound to happen. It's a cool and innovative way to increase the tension within the player by making them physically emulate the character on screen.
Another interesting mechanic is your periodic visitation with the enigmatic Dr. Hill. Several times throughout the game, you, the player, will be interviewed by Dr. Hill about your real-life fears and anxieties. The cool thing is that every visit to him will further tweak and cater the rest of the game based on your answers to his questions. It's a pretty imaginative way to customize the game, but it would be a bit more impressive if this information was gleaned from the player without them ever knowing it.
At the end of the day, Until Dawn is a game with pretty thin gameplay. Unlike many other games, it's heavily reliant upon the quality of its narrative for its enjoyment. But don't get me wrong, the gameplay and story are still working hand in hand here. It's just that the story is doing more of the work than it usually does in other games. Until Dawn is just one of those experiences where you can get a lot out of it just by watching a friend play, and that's okay. Hell, that can be one of the best ways to play it. Have an Until Dawn party and scare your friends. They'll thank you for it.
The kids have been stalked, tortured, and scared out of their wits over the course of the night. They've managed to call for help at a radio tower, but their pickup isn't arriving until morning. And just as Chris and Ashley are about to be taken out by a death trap straight out of the Saw franchise, Josh comes out of the shadows and reveals that he's the mastermind behind all of the night's terrors. He explains that he's orchestrated the entire night to get revenge on all of his former friends for their having caused the disappearance of his sisters, Hannah and Beth, with their horrible prank 1 year ago.
The group doesn't care too much for Josh's bullshit, so they tie his ass up and leave him alone in his shed. But it turns out that Josh wasn't responsible for every weird occurrence that happened that night. Thanks to the copious amounts of exposition from a crazy mountain man known as the Stranger, we learned that it was him in the pyro costume a year ago, and that he was only trying to help the twins escape to safety.
Oh, and he also mentions that Blackwood Mountain is also home to a horrible, horrible curse and is infested with Wendigo. You know, former human beings who've been mutated into ghastly creatures because they've consumed human flesh. These things are strong, fast, and will casually decapitate you like a hunter from Resident Evil.
Many of the clues you find over the course of the game suggest that many of these Wendigo are actually miners from the 1950s who were trapped underneath Blackwood Mountain due to a cave-in and were left with no other choice but to feed on one another in order to survive. But the biggest revelation of all is that one of the Wendigo is actually Hannah. It turns out that she didn't die from her fall a year ago, and that she was forced to feed on the carcass of her sister in order to survive. Boom! Wendigo Hannah was born. Windana. Handigo?
While poor Josh gets dragged off by his now transformed sister, the rest of the gang manages to reconvene back at the lodge. The only problem is that they've been followed by an entire pack of Wendigo, including Handigo herself. While the teenage monster fights off a few of her own kind, a la the T-Rex at the end of Jurassic Park, the gang hatches a plan to use a nearby broken gas pipe to blow the creatures to smithereens.
This climactic sequence involves making a lot of quick decisions to help as many of your friends get to safety as possible. You've got to keep your character alive while your buds exit the building one by one. The right answers aren't as clear as they may seem, and you might easily end up with one or more of your friends biting the dust. This sequence also features the best and most memorable usage of the don't move mechanic thus far. Shoutouts to Ellen Ripley. She's my baby. I love her.
Finally left alone in the building with the monsters, Sam makes a break for the door, flipping the light switch as she exits, igniting the gas, and sending all the Wendigo to hell. All the surviving kids regroup outside as helicopters fly overhead just as day breaks. Over the credits, the gang give their accounts of the night's incidents while being interrogated by the police. This dialogue will change depending upon the decisions you make during the game, but we can count on one thing: the nightmare is finally over. Or is it? Yes, it is. But is it? Yes, it is. But? Yeah, no, it's over. Until Dawn may not have much by way of unlockables, but it does have a good amount of things to collect. Firstly, finding and collecting every totem in the game will unlock a short video called Events of the Past. It details the history of the Wendigo on Blackwood Mountain, the stranger's attempts to hunt them down, how the miners being forced to eat one another reawoke the curse, and how Hannah and Beth were chased 1 year ago by the head Wendigo called the Makapitu. This cutscene is unlocked piece by piece with each totem you find in the game, and implies that when the stranger killed the Makapitu, its spirit eventually found its way to Hannah, causing her to eventually eat her sister and become the Handigo that we know today.
Until Dawn also has 3 different clue lines, which are sets of clues that reveal the mysteries behind 3 different plot points in the game. Collecting every clue in the Mystery Man clue line will reveal the identity of the maniac who's torturing and hunting the characters over the course of the game. Spoilers, it's Josh. Collecting clues in the 1952 clue line will shed light on what happened to the miners who were trapped underneath the mountain all those years ago. And the Twins clue line will reveal the fates of Beth and Hannah after their fateful fall from a year ago. Completing these clue lines will get you 1 trophy each as well.
As for the rest of the trophies, getting every single one is going to take some time, as many are only obtainable on multiple or alternate playthroughs. For example, you can't get the trophy for killing Emily and letting her live in the same playthrough. She's not Schrodinger's cat. Considering that there are separate trophies for completing the game with all of the male characters surviving, all the female characters surviving, and one for no one surviving at all, it's gonna take you a while to platinum this bad boy.
But once you play through the game once, you pretty much know where all the pitfalls are and which decisions to make in order to get all the desired trophies. As long as you've got the time to spare and the patience to watch these poor kids get slaughtered over and over again, you're gonna grab that platinum in no time.
Until Dawn isn't a difficult game by any means. The gameplay that it offers is simple and often pushes the player forward without the player having to do that much on their own. You might get frustrated if you make a choice that ends up getting one of your favorite characters killed, but that's the nature of this game. If you're going for a no-death run on your first try, then a guide will prevent you from facing any possible rage along the way.
But is the game fun? The answer is yes, but in a way that's different from a lot of other games out there. Until Dawn can be genuinely creepy if played alone in the right conditions, and it can be a blast if it's played with friends and drinks.
Oh! Cabal!
A Tuscan Raider! If alone, it doesn't really provide the excitement that you get from a more action-oriented title, but you'll definitely get a good amount of chills. But with friends, you're bound to have a good time. In short, Until Dawn is like any good slasher flick. Fun at parties, but also creepy if you let your guard down.
Why would you use...
Kill it, man! Wait, no, nature. Until Dawn is a technically impressive entry into the realm of cinematic gameplay. It's everything you'd want in a playable horror movie, and manages to innovate in a few areas in that regard.
It's good at being both creepy and a good time. It's a lot more fun playing with friends, as it'll keep you all guessing, and it's got a bunch of people you know and love in it.
At the very least, Until Dawn is captivating, and I think it does Heavy Rain and Beyond Two Souls better than both those games aim to do.
With a pretty solid motivation for completion, the game provides at least 30 to 40 hours of playthroughs to keep you going. So, with that in mind, guys, we give this game our completionist rating of
Hallelujah!
Completionist!
Hey guys, thanks for watching today's episode of The Completionist. I hope you enjoyed it. Until Dawn's a great game, and I hope you liked this episode. If you want to check out more of the Scary Game Squad, give it a click right here in the corner. And if you missed last week's episode on Triforce Heroes, give it a click right here. Now, back to the squad.
That's all the time we've got for today, guys. So please, as always, let us know what you thought about today's episode somewhere on the internet. Guys, thanks for being here.
Hey, man. Thank you.
We ran out of alcohol like 25 minutes ago.
I drank all of the...
That's how I got everyone to agree to do this. Now, if you excuse us,
Harry, baby.
here's a clip from one of our episodes of Scary Game Squad. I hope you like it.
It's from Soma. I know you're gonna love it.
I love these old-timey, like, oh, we opened it, did you? With my punch card.
Keep it. Good
We
man.
should have just played Saw the game.
Do something!
What are you doing?
Punch him, no! Gerard!
Gerard! You're...
Holy Dude, Angels.
You were so lucky. You're right, angels.
Easy.
Angels are guiding us.
Dude.
Holy shit.
God,
We are...
I didn't know what kind of
Hashtag,
What a fist is?
Hashtag blessed, man.
Don't go out.
Don't go
leave.
near that dog. Don't
Yeah,
go
just let
anywhere.
him
Just
do his thing.
continue. This is
You
not a
do
time
you,
to
dog.
Hashtag blessed.
What
That was
happened?
So, I guess
Holy
we
sh-
just...
You
It was
never
just
f***ed anything up.
It was just
but
a
you
picture
did it
of
when
a
we
fist.
needed to.
It was just a picture of a
Were you
fist.
gonna punch it? You just sucker punch a wolf?
Sucker punch a wolf.